Today we'll be talking about this month's Emblem banner in Fire Emblem Heroes for June 2024. We'll briefly review all units available to summon and go over what fun skills are available. This month, Emblem Celica warps into Fae, very often focused abilities, including her powerful Warp Ragnarok. If you have one copy of Emblem Celica, you can use her Emblem Ring to engage with a unit. That unit will gain extra special damage equal to their max cooldown value times 4. This will not boost area effect special damage. First effect is very simple. If you got a 1 cooldown special, your special proc deals plus 4 damage. 2 cooldowns plus 8, 3 cooldowns plus 12, and so on. Due to the wording, I'm pretty sure you must be using an offensive damage special to gain the extra damage. Emblem Celica provides a second effect though, and you can use this on any special. For each foe within 5 spaces of unit can move to the nearest spaces that are within unit's range from that foe. We have seen this effect before a couple times, like on Hell's Remix and Harken's Sword. This is a warp ability that essentially gives a unit a 5 space attack range. For example, on a standard melee infantry unit, they have an attack range of 3. You move 2 spaces, attack the adjacent 3rd space. If you engage with Emblem Celica, this is almost like having 4 movement, because you attack that 5th space. To reiterate, this is a warp ability, so you can warp over things like forest tiles, but non-flyers cannot warp onto things like mountains or water. This ability is also hard countered by Warp Bubble, unless you have the pass ability. Last thing to note, you can only warp to the closest spaces. If a foe is only 3 spaces away, no, you cannot warp behind them. Now, for ranged units, this ability will only put them on the nearest spaces within their attack range, aka you must still be 2 spaces away as if you're making an attack. This essentially means for ranged cavalry or just any 3 movement ranged unit, this emblem ring does not actually extend their attack range. This does let your calves warp over trees though, or just hop onto a trench tile, which can definitely still have its value. Overall, this is definitely a strong emblem ring due to simply how powerful mobility is. However, this is not like true extra movement or anything. You can only warp farther to get into attack range of enemies. If you think of Warp Ragnarok from Engage, Celica doesn't just get to move 10 spaces freely, you must warp near enemies. Same idea here. Let's not talk about Emblem Celica as a unit. To no surprise, Celica is going the mage route and is a blue infantry mage. This means we now have a mage Celica of every color. For stats from the trailer, it looks like Celica will have 45 HP, 46 attack, 46 speed, 21 defense, and 24 res. Unsurprisingly, a glass cannon stat spread, but the Celica has an unusually high base HP. This will be important for later. For old skill, Celica has Verge of Death, pretty new life and death upgrade. This skill neutralizes panic and attack and speed debuffs that take effect at start of either phase. It is a very glass cannon A skill. Celica's other skill is Infantry No Fall of 4. If I'm not mistaken, Ascended Celica was the first unit to with the Tier 3 version. You get no follow-up for your team and even more warping for Celica. For her weapon, Celica has Carrying Magic. I don't know what's going on with the naming, but we first had Hero King's Sword, then it went to the boring Emblem Ragnarok. Now we're back to a brand new name for Celica. Very inconsistent. Luckily for us, Carrying Magic is a fairly simple weapon. It just has a lot of individual effects built in. Celica has Exert Specials. If she initiates or is near an ally, she gains plus 6 attack and speed and extra attack and speed equal to 20% of her speed stat at start of combat. Celica deals true damage equal to 20% speed in combat. She neutralizes enemy speed and res field buffs, and before her follow-up attack, Celica gains -1 instant cooldown. If she initiates, Celica gets Desperation to double immediately if she can. Carrying Magic is pure damage oriented, all attack and speed stacking, some extra true damage, and Celica gets -1 cooldown before her follow-up attack. To get to the follow-up, Celica has Desperation, and unlike Emblem Mart, this one is player phase only. You may notice that Emblem Celica has 0 defensive perks, low base defense and res, which Verge of Death, tanking those further. If Celica doesn't get the 2-tap one-shot, well, it's probably over. Celica also has no way to retreat, so you better make sure you can protect her on the enemy phase. This is especially true because Celica does come with Warp Ragnarok. This is a unique 2 cooldown special that boosts damage by 25% attack. Warp Ragnarok has built-in Times Pulse 3, so every turn if specials at max cooldown gain -1 cooldown. Slaying Warp Ragnarok will be on 1 cooldown, so every turn it will always pre-charge. To use this special, Celica has a better version of her Emblem Ring's effect. She can move to the nearest space to attack foes within 6 spaces. Most importantly, Celica can move through foe spaces. You may also know this effect as Pass. With built-in Pass, Celica can completely bypass Warp Bubble, and she doesn't need to sacrifice a B skill to do so. With a 6 space attack range, Celica is like a 4 movement mage, and she immediately procs Warp Ragnarok. Remember, Carrying Magic grants -1 instant cooldown before her follow-up attack, so with Desperation's 2 taps, Celica can proc back-to-back Warp Ragnarok specials. In the trailer, they pitted Celica against Fallen Veil. Veil can scale both of Celica's attacks, but she doesn't have guard. This lets Celica charge Warp Ragnarok on her basic attack, and then on the follow-up, Carrying Magic cancelled out Veil's scowl effect. You can 100% stop Celica with Fallen Veil. Veil or her ally just need to have guard. If Celica has something like no guard though, one Warp Ragnarok is going to happen, assuming she doubles. Now, to empower Celica's magical assault, she brings Resonance as a inheritable B skill. In Engage, this is a tome-only skill, so I suspect this possibly is inheritable by all mages. If Cows and Flying Mages can use this skill, it would be a very interesting new option. Resonance 4 has a lot going on, but to summarize, it sacrifices HP to gain extra true damage and DR piercing. How it does so is a little complex. First off, the HP loss happens at start of combat, and it's 20% of X. X is the unit's max HP before entering battle minus 20. I believe this is the first time a skill directly uses a stat without any game mode bonuses. This means it does not include extra HP gained by things such as blessings. For example, Celica has 45 HP. X is equal to 45 minus 20, so 25. 20% of 25 is 5. Celica loses 5 HP when entering combat. Now, onto the benefits of the skill. It inflicts -4 speed and res on the foe during combat. The unit deals true damage equal to the unit's HP at start of combat minus her current HP. You times that by 2. Using Celica again, this time we do use her HP stat with any bonuses included. To make things simple though, all you need to understand is that all the underlying values I have here are the same. If it's Celica's first combat, she will lose 5 HP. Her HP at start of combat minus her current HP is also going to be 5. 5 times 2 is 10. Celica gains 10 true damage in combat. We do a similar thing to determine the last effect, which is DR piercing for the unit. They get a DR piercing percentage equal to the unit's HP at start of combat minus current HP, times that value by 10. So, like before, Celica lost 5 HP, 5 times 10 is 50, Celica gets 50% DR piercing. Resonance 4 sacrifices HP to gain true damage and DR piercing. If you want the max effectiveness, the user needs 50 HP before game mode bonuses. 50 minus 20 is 30, 20% of 30 is 6. For the true damage part, 6 times 2 is 12, which is the max. For the DR piercing, 6 times 10 is 60, which is the max. No matter what happens, Resonance grants 6 true damage and 30% DR piercing, minimum. Unless you have healing, you only need 50 HP for the very first encounter. After that, Celica or whoever will just keep losing HP, and you only need to lose 6 HP total. If it wasn't obvious, this skill is a high risk, high reward option. Actively losing HP generally isn't great, and for infantry mages, you can get 50% DR piercing from tier 4 tempo or no follow-up. There's also Lagu's Friend for special procs. However, Resonance could be quite enticing for mage cavaliers or flyers who do not have any DR piercing skills. Their main issue is going to be safety. Now, HP loss isn't always bad. You could use Resonance to get to low HP and trigger Wings of Mercy on allies. Maybe pair that with Double Fury for tons of recoil damage. I don't think one fight is enough to drop into Wings of Mercy range, but for a unit like Summer Govig who has extra actions, well, you can kind of see how Resonance could be really good on her. It's a little risky though. Overall, Emblem Celica is actually very simple combat-wise. Resonance looks confusing, but it's just further playing into Celica's glass cannon playstyle. She can warp into attack range from 6 spaces away, she can immediately proc Warp Ragnarok, double thanks to Desperation and no follow-up, and then trigger a second Warp Ragnarok. Meanwhile, Resonance takes 5 HP, but Celica gains 10 true damage and 50% DR pierced on all of her attacks. Verge of Death can deny attack and speed debuffs and panic. Infantry no follow can help allies, and its own regular warp status gives Celica extra mobility. It's not redundant with the Warp Ragnarok effect. Where Celica can get tricky is her warping mobility. Emblem Celica having pass is really powerful. You literally cannot stop her warping unless you can make it so terrain like mountains or structures block her way. She is an infantry unit. Her emblem ring will require the other units to get past, but if Warp Bubble isn't in play, then you can cause some chaos for sure. If you're familiar with the Cavline Aether Raid setup, it's oppressive due to being in immediate attack range. Well, ranged Cavaliers have 5 attack range. Celica can give any unit 5 attack range effectively. In theory, your melee Gale Force units can also now reach those same squishy Cavaliers. If you like aggressive tactics, Emblem Celica definitely should be worth a look. You just gotta make sure you can provide backup when Celica or her rings holder go in deep for the attack. For the rest of the video, we'll briefly review the 11 other heroes on the banner. In red, we have Embla, Legendary Veronica, and Legendary Hinoka. Blue has Emblem Celica, Attuned Sheeta, and Attuned Ivy. Green has legendary Xander, Ascended Merric, and Rosado. Colorless has Fomortiis, Gotoh, and Medeus. Starting us off in red, Mythic Embla is back in non-bridal fashion. Dark Mythic Red Flying Beast, her 7th C skill can inflict Undefended, which denies Savior, and the Feud status, which disables support skills. It also cleanses penalties on Embla and gives her dodge. Her weapon has Slaying, debuffs based on the foes within 3 rows or 3 columns. She gets no guard, defense no follow-up, and inflicts guard on the foe. For fodder, Emblem has the nice attack and speed clash 4 and beast agility 3, which grants offense and no follow-up. The tier 4 of that is on Ratatoskr only. Paired with Embla is legendary Veronica again. Glass Cannon Red Mage Cav, Veronica's Tome has Sling, Stats, Offense, and no follow-up, and if her target has 2 or nearby foes, then Veronica prevents their counterattack. Like Celica, Veronica has built-in Desperation. Her unique Enclosure special grants no guard and is a DR piercing special. Veronica has Attack and Speed Catch 4 and Speed and Res Far Trace 3 for fodder. She is a possible user of Celica's Resonance if you wanted DR piercing on her basic attack, but this would get rid of Kanto from Far Trace. Last up is legendary Hinoka, offensive red flying archer. Hinoka's bow has slaying and armor effectiveness. It has true damage, offense and no follow, and against green units or if Hinoka outspeeds, she actually prevents their counters as well. Sounds familiar. From her unique C skill, Hinoka gives a breath type cooldown status to allies, and for flying allies, she also gives them charge. This is also a crux type debuff for speed, defense, and res, but no free follow-up attacked on. For fodder, you can get Deadeye, Attack and Speed Catch 4 again, and Wings of Mercy 4, which we were discussing has possible synergy with Celica's Resonance and her ability to dive far in to make an attack. Speaking of Celica, Blue has our newest Emblem hero. If you want any fodder from Celica, she's going to have the new Resonance 4 B skill. We still don't know the inheritance restrictions, but if it is usable by all mages, then definitely an option for non-infantry glass cannons. For other skills, Celica has Virgin Death, which is still pretty new. Infantry No Follow 4 is another good skill if you need no follow-up, and Halloween Cedo has popped up if you need the tier 3. Joining Celica, we have some incredible fodder units. Attuned Caeda is back, Lance Infantry with high speed, balanced defenses. Her weapon has Slaying, Armor and Cav effectiveness, plus it grants attack and speed field boss and the Warp status to nearby allies. Caeda gets bonus stats based on nearby allies, 50% DR piercing, 30% DR for herself, and she can heal on hit. Her unique B skill is a little wild. It's a dodge 4 skill with Unity and stat debuffs. Caeda then gets flat DR scaling off the total field buffs on herself or nearby allies. She can give herself full +6 field buffs, so that's 24 flat DR. However, this only applies when fighting armor cavalry foes. Against flyers and infantry, Caeda only gets 40% of that previous flat DR. For fodder, Caeda has 3 skills only found on her so far. Her attuned skill is Guard Echo, which inflicts guard and has 20% DR for enemy phase. Caeda has Distant Bonus Doubler, which is Distant Counter plus Bonus Doubler. To get full buffing with her weapon, Caeda then has Defense and Res Pledge, which can give the breath type cooldown status as well. Distant Bonus Doubler has been quite popular with Lagu's Friend and or Breath of Life 4. If you want to join that party, Caeda is definitely an excellent unit to have on hand. A little more niche, but still incredibly good fodder, next is Attuned Ivy, blue flying mage with high attack, kind of middling speed, defense, and res. Ivy's Tome lets her warp to her support partner within 3 spaces, and this is 2 space warping as well. If her support is not on the team, Ivy just gets 3 movement instead. For combat, Ivy has Sling, stats based on the foe's attack, no guard, percent DR increasing with the number of spaces move, and for follow-up attacks, Ivy heals 7 HP. Ivy can get up to 70% damage reduction if she moves 5 spaces. You're gonna need to be warping for that one. From her unique A skill, Ivy gets +9 to all stats, Omnibreaker, and on follow-ups, she gets 100% DR piercing. She then has the potent effect to gain potent follow-ups. We just did a whole overview on speed difference modification, follow-ups, and why potent technically is a separate thing. Ivy is very dependent on follow-up attacks, so you should understand how all of those mechanics interact. For fodder, Ivy's attuned skill is Soaring Echo. Summer Ivy should be rerunning soonish if you want Soaring Guidance, but this is a fine option if you just want the warp effect. Ivy also has Attack and Res Far Trace 4. Right now you can get a Summer Mercedes who has the tier 3 of this skill in the Ephemera shop. Last good skill Ivy has is Deadly Miasma, quite a powerful flyer initiation skill, and it comes with Savage Blow plus Haste to Rain after combat. If you want Emblem Celica, now's a pretty good time to try. Including the attuned skills, there are 6 skills only found between these 3 units, and the other inheritables are also still somewhat new. You then have Celica's Emblem Ring effect. Would not be disappointed getting anyone here. Moving on to the green group, Legendary Xander's back, Axe Cavalier with decent offensive stats. Xander's Axe has Sling, and if he starts the turn near allies, he gets a no follow-up and breath type cooldown status. He gains +5 stats and heals 7 HP after combat. His Chivalry Beast skill grants near choice Gotoh, inflicts debuffs, and gives up to 50% DR based on the foe's starting HP. For fodder, Xander has Attack and Speed Catch 4 and the hilarious Colorless Feud 3. Man just doesn't like healers, I guess. Next up is Ascended Merric, Glass Cannon Green Mage Cav. His tome has Fly Effectiveness, Slang, bonus attack and speed if his team is healthy, Full Follow-Up, 30% DR for first attacks, and Merric can gain -1 instant cooldown before his first attack and his follow-up. Like Emblem Celica, Merric can also do back-to-back specials. His Sacred Wind scales off speed and pierces %DR. After combat, Merric heals everyone for 20 HP and gets Gotoh 1. For fodder, Merric is the only unit with CO speed and res 3. This skill basically always tries to inflict -9 speed and res on the foe. For protection, you can get Remote Sparrow, and for full damage, instant attack and speed is still a solid self buffer. Our third green unit is Rosado, high speed and defense axe flyer. His axe has Sling, inflicts debuffs based on the foe's special cooldown, reduces first attacks by 40%, grants breath type cooldown, heals 7 HP after combat, and reduces the foe's %DR skills by 30%. If the foe has higher defense than res, Rosado actually gets 70% DR piercing instead. For fodder, he has 2 skills to himself. Earthwind boosts the speed and defense tier for boost, extra HP, extra guard potential. Rosado then has Wyvern Rift, which does a speed plus defense stat check. If you win this check, you gain true damage and flat DR. The user must have 42 flat defense to get the max amount. In addition, gain Omni Breaker and increase the speed roll for the enemy to make a follow-up attack. Wyvern Rift is an interesting skill, but requires a pretty specific stat spread to use. Last up is Colorless. Mythic Fomortiis is an animal mythic, Colorless Armored Beast. His main feature is his Nightmare A skill. Inflict -10 attack and defense on the foe, reduce the first hit by 30%, and after combat, end the turn of the closest foe within 4 spaces of his target. Very annoying ability. From his weapon, Fomortiis gets Sling, Guard, more attack and defense debuffs, and if transformed, he gains breath type cooldown. Against follow-up attacks, Fomortiis has 80% DR. For fodder, the Demon King has Beast Follow-Up and Attack and Defense Far Save. Fomortiis is definitely one possible user of that brand new Beast Sacred Seal. He can transform, still gain distant counter, and you can run a more defensive Beast skill instead. Reuniting with another banner pair, Light Mythic Gotoh joins the Demon King once again. Gotoh is a bulky colorless mage. His tome grants defense from his field boss and a status for 80% DR against AoE specials. If you struggle against AoEs, Gotoh is a very strong counter because so far there is no DR piercing from AoE specials. For combat, Gotoh has Sling, inflicts attack on his debuffs, neutralize the foe's attack on his field boss, he has no siege disrupt to counter back, and he heals 7 HP after combat. His ace skill inflicts more attack and res debuffs, gives a free follow-up, and against consecutive hits, Gotoh has 80% DR. Against ranged foes, Gotoh has Brave Ike's, or more recently, Emblem Ike's ability to let the foe use all their follow-up attacks first. He doesn't have unpierceable %DR, but very much a unit who could use something like Lagu's Friend and Emblem Ike's Ring. As for fodder, Gotoh has the still kinda rare Guard 4, he also has Joint Distant Guard. Last unit for today is Mythic Medeus, Dark Mythic Colorless Infantry Dragon. Medeus' weapon grants attack on his field boss and the Unguard status to allies. Unguard neutralizes out of combat damage, but this does not stop things like instant damage or AoEs. For combat, Medeus inflicts attack on his debuffs and prevents a follow-up attack. From his B skill, if he has higher res, he makes a follow-up attack and he has a modified Dragon Wall. If he has nearby healers or dragon allies, this can go up to 60% damage reduction. For fodder, Medeus has defense res at DL 4 and Counter Control for lockdown. That'll be it for this month's Emblem banner. Let me know what you think about Emblem Celica. She definitely has a lot of firepower, and long-range warping is always dangerous. You cannot stop her with Warp Bubble either. However, Celica is still susceptible to Scowl, and if you can counter back, she has no defensive capabilities, like, at all. She may be able to power through with Resonance, but that skill itself lowers his HP as well. I think Resonance won't be seen as widespread like the last inheritable skill from an Emblem hero, but if it's open to any mage, then should have some value on non-infantry simply due to DR piercing. If you don't want to run Occultist's Strike, Resonance can be a new option. Do be wary of the continuous HP loss though. As for Celica's Emblem Ring effect, definitely strong, but could be bad in the AI's hands if they just get baited into a really bad matchup and overextend. At least for combat, it is just extra damage though for your damage specials. Personally, I am thinking of summoning for Celica, just in case though. I am gonna wait just a little bit because Summer Banner number 2 is coming soon. If you need orbs, that Summer Banner also has a Tempest Trellis to help stock up. That's all I got to say for this video. Thank you for watching, and good luck on your summons.